Welcome to They Mostly Pot Out at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Hello.
This is episode 104 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. This week is part one of our viewing of the Phantasm franchise. That's right, there are
Yay.
tall men, there are dwarves in brown robes who are definitely not Jawas. And there are plenty of flying chrome spheres with blender attachments. So join us as we throw continuity out the window and cast judgment upon the marble walls of the mausoleum. So we're diving in with Phantasm. They have the first 3 of them. There are 5 total.
Yep.
We'll be doing the other 2 next week. But there's Phantasm, the 1979 Phantasm, Phantasm 2, which came out 9 years later, in 1988, and then Phantasm 3, which came out 6 years after that, in 1994.
Yeah,
so
this
it's quite a
franchise
span of time.
Like 30. I think the last one's like 2016, so it's like 37 years.
Yeah, 37 years and only 5 movies. So
yep.
They're coming out as fast as George R.R. Martin writes books. So, I will start out with Phantasm in 1979. Now, I had to write notes because this movie is very confusing.
They all are.
Yes, they are very confusing, but the other 2, I would say, matter less because it doesn't matter if you understand what's happening because half of it is not even like used in the next scene anyway. So
yeah,
doesn't matter. Okay, so we start off with they call her the Lavender Lady, seducing and killing a guy named Tommy with a sexy Hogan beard.
Yeah,
or what do you call it? No, it's not the friendly bartender. Those are the big sideburns. But just, I don't know, the Hogan, the handlebars.
Yeah.
This is 1979, so apparently that's cool. Anyway, the Lavender Lady seduces and then kills Tommy and then morphs into the Tall Man, which is the first time we see him. We don't know who he is yet, but so there's a funeral for Tommy. His good friends, Jody and Reggie, who are in a band with him, apparently, because they kept talking about that they were in some kind of trio.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that they were in a band. So I'm guessing Tommy was the drummer because the other 2 played guitar. So just a guess.
Right.
So they're at the funeral. Jody's little brother, Mike, wanted to go to the funeral, but Jody didn't want him to go there because he didn't want him to see his friend, all deadified or whatever. Scar the kid. I mean, the kid's not that young. He was he's like 12 or something.
13, but his parents just died recently too. We don't say when, but recent.
Yeah. So yeah, Jody's like taking care of him, whatever. But of course, Mike sneaks to the funeral home anyway, and he's watching the funeral home through binoculars from the bushes in the graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees the funeral, and he also sees the Tall Man basically pick up an entire coffin with like one hand and put it in the back of the hearse himself.
Yes.
There's the first clue that we get that the Tall Man is not who he claims to be. He doesn't say a whole lot in this movie. He's just more of a menacing figure.
Right.
Anyway, so Jody, after the funeral, Jody's kind of like, goes to the bar to like drink whatever, just drown his sorrows kind of thing. And he meets up with the Lavender Lady. They go to the cemetery to get it on.
The same slab.
Yeah, the same place that good old Tommy was at. So, they're about to go at it, but of course, Mike followed him and is watching him with his binoculars, like watching him get it on with this lady. But he sees these little dwarves running around. I think earlier in the mausoleum they might have shown them like the very edge of the robe running around.
Yeah, just out of frame.
Right. Yeah. So we don't see them. We really don't see them in this scene either. But we do see that there's little dwarvy guys in robes that are out there. They kind of go after Mike. Mike screams. Jody gets up from the Lavender Lady. He goes, "Oh, that's my brother. I gotta go get him." So he runs out there. He saves Mike. Mike's like, "There's killer dwarves after me." And he's like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." So he goes back to the Lavender Lady, and she is gone. He's very upset. So they go home. Jody's just kind of like, leave this dwarf thing alone. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, he's trying to say there's, things happening at the funeral home. Jody is not having. He's like, nope, I don't believe any of this shit. Just like, stop. So Mike decides that he's going to go break into this funeral home and find out things for himself. So he breaks into the funeral home by breaking a window. He climbs into the basement and kind of goes through the mausoleum and stuff. Um, and of course, he gets found out. He sees a bunch of like little dwarves running around. He gets found out. Um, I don't think they say who the guy is, but there's like this big dude who's obviously like a henchman of the tall man.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing like makeup. He's got like I don't know. I call him Eyeshadow Man because he's wearing eyeshadow and a very odd looking dude. Anyway, so he grabs Mike. This is now we see the first appearance of the chrome sphere that floats around. Which, if you've ever seen any posters or anything about Phantasm, you've seen the chrome sphere with the blades on it.
Yeah.
So he grabs Mike. The sphere comes out. Mike Dot is out of the way. The sphere embeds itself in Eyeshadow Man's head and then drills into his brain and sprays blood everywhere. And then so Mike tries to get away. The tall man actually pops out, sees, hears all the commotion or whatever, and then chases Mike. Mike runs back into the basement to get out the window. He slams the tall man's hand in the door, which is smashed flat, but somehow still his fingers are wiggling around on the other side. And he slashes at his fingers with the knife, and this yellow mustard blood sprays all over the place, and his fingers just land on the ground, and then they start like wiggling around as if they're still like alive or like I don't know, what do you call it, autonomous somehow. So he picks one up and brings it home. Now he gets away. He goes to show Jody, hey, look at this. This is a finger in mustard. Jody goes, okay, I guess I believe you now. So Jody then locks Mike in his room, and then he goes to the funeral.
Yep.
Wait, hold on. Does the fly? No, the fly thing happens the next day.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think Reggie comes over.
Yeah.
Right.
And they bring it to the sheriff, and that's when he sees it.
Right. But anyway, I don't remember what order they happened in. But anyway, the finger, after he shows Jody, turns into like a fly thing. I don't know. It's like a little black fly looking monster. It flies around. And attacks them. And I think Reggie sees it at this time as well. And then Reggie decides he's going to do it. But anyway, so Jody goes back to the funeral home. He breaks in. He goes into the same room. The dwarves immediately pop out and attack him when he just shoots them and then runs away. So he's only in the funeral home for like 30 seconds. He jumps in his car, and then there's a car chase with Jody's very cool car and the hearse, right? They have a kind of a car chase. He makes the hearse crash, and then when he gets out and looks at the crash, he sees a dead dwarf, but it has the face of Tommy,
right,
his friend that just died, with mustard blood. So at this point, they realize that whatever's happening there, these little dwarf guys are dead people that are being made into dwarves. So he goes back home. I think he sees the aftermath of the whole fly thing. And Reggie, he picks up Mike and then drops him off at an antique store.
Yeah.
With, I think it's the there's a weird scene earlier where he's like talking to the like the fortune teller grandma and the
Yeah.
girl that's like
Put your hand
whatever.
in the box.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Dune, like put your hand in the box. There's just pain in the box. But yeah, her granddaughter that's like interpreting for her. Is
Like,
it
she's not
them?
saying anything.
Right. It's like is I think it's them. I don't know. They don't really explain why he's dropping them off with these two women.
Yeah.
But anyway, Jody drops him off there, and then Jody goes out alone again.
Mhm.
And I think this time is where Mike makes the shotgun hammer and breaks out of his room.
Right. Yeah, because that's how you do it.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, he like scotch tapes a shotgun shell to a hammer
It hits the
and
door.
then hammers the door and it blows the entire door open.
Yes.
So he's able to get out. Yeah, and then he gets basically kidnapped by the tall man almost immediately after that. And then the car explodes. Because of course it does.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so they go back to he goes back to the funeral home, right?
Mhm.
The He's hiding in like the coffin display area. Okay, so Mike gets kidnapped by the tall man. Jody and Reggie decide they have to go and rescue him, of course.
Right.
So they go back to the funeral home,
Mhm.
and basically they discover that all of the coffins and all of the, you know, basically all the bodies that were there are being, turned into these dwarves. They basically discover all that. Because I think he opens up the mausoleum I think it's where his parents are supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't think they ever showed the name when Joey was going through it. They just know he was there.
Well, they showed it in the very beginning when he said I got to go see somebody. He looked at a name on the mausoleum, and I think that was supposed to be his parents.
Yeah, I would assume so.
I don't know, whatever. But he opens it up and it's empty. And basically, and all the ones that they open up, it's empty. So that's where we figure out that basically the tall man is taking these dead bodies and making them into these dwarves, that are then trying to kill people. We're not exactly sure why, but that's what's going on. So they end up they find his secret white room that has the um,
Portal.
portal to another planet, another dimension. We don't know, but that's basically where the tall man comes from.
Right.
And they when they go in there, and I think Reggie actually like turns it on, whatever. When they go in there, they see like these big long line of dwarves and all the barrels and everything that are in it. So there's barrels lined up in the room. When Reggie turns on the thing, all the barrels get flying in there or whatever, and then Reggie is trying to like get out of there. Meanwhile, Jody is looking for Mike. I believe he finds him in one of the mausoleum holes. I think.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. So they run outside while Reggie is like inside dealing with the portal thing. They run outside. They get into a fight with the lavender lady. Um, I think Reggie ends up getting stabbed by her.
Yep.
Um, and then he is apparently at this point he just looks like he's dead. Right? He's
Uh,
all covered in blood. He lays there, and they basically leave
it seems like he's quite dead. Yes.
him. Right? Like he gets stabbed. There's blood everywhere. They left him. They're like, oh shit, he's dead. Let's just go.
Yeah.
So they split up. They manage to escape. They get back to the house. So where Jody says, "I'm going to go up to this mine shaft right down the street, and I'm going to take away all the warning signs so that basically we'll try to get the tall man to fall into this mine shaft." And so Mike is like, "Okay, I'm going to go in the house and get ammo." That was his job. I don't know why they needed to split up. Like he could have grabbed ammo in like a minute and went with them, but whatever. And they were like, well, how are we going to get him to go up there? And of course, as soon as Mike is in the house, the tall man just pops out and chases Mike around the house. He manages to escape and then runs to the mine shaft. So it must have been pretty close by. Right. And then it's essentially tricked the tall man into falling into the mine shaft. And then there you go. So then we kind of skip to Mike and Reggie sitting in front of a fireplace. So where Reggie is like, "Oh yeah, everything's fine. Jody died in a car accident."
Yeah.
And but the tall man didn't take Jody. He just died in a car accident. Everything's fine. Reggie at this point does not seem to remember or know anything about the tall man or the dwarves. He's trying to tell Mike that it's not real, that everything's fine. So he convinces Mike, okay, let's go on a road trip. We'll forget about this whole thing. He's like, okay. Mike gets all excited. He's like, yeah. He goes upstairs to grab his stuff. Closes the door with the mirror on it. He sees the tall man in the mirror. He turns around and goes, the tall man goes, boy,
Boy.
boy. And then dwarves reach through the mirror and grab Mike and then pull him through the mirror and then Elfine. That's it. I don't think I left anything out, but again, I had to write down notes because it gets confusing. There's lots of back and forths, and sometimes characters show up and then disappear, and it's bizarre. But sorry if I missed anything or fucked it up.
All good. So was this your first time seeing this?
No, this one I've seen before. It wasn't. I didn't watch it back in the old days. It was within the last decade that I watched it.
Okay.
It was just one of those movies that it's a franchise that I hear people talking about. So it was like those kind of franchises. I try to watch at least the first one.
Right.
And then depending on how much I like the first one, I may go further. I may not go further.
Mm-hmm.
This one I did not go further. I'm not gonna say I disliked the first one, but I was like, I did not think that it would get better with a second entry. So I just kind of avoided it. Yeah, I just kind of avoided it. Now that I watched the second one for the first time, I think I was in the right.
Yeah.
There. I don't think I was missing much. But the first one's not bad.
Yeah. For me, obviously, me, I have the orb on my horror sleeve. Not necessarily just because I'm the necessarily the hugest fan of the franchise as a whole. But this was an interesting movie, being 1979, so it was right after Halloween, but before every other major slasher that came out in the 80s. So, I feel like this was originally supposed to be like a one and done type deal. And then after the slashers happened in the 80s, after, by 1988, when number 2 came out, there was already like 50 Friday the 13th. Like, we should probably make another one.
Yeah. And it's odd enough in that the original writer director of the first movie made the first 4. He wrote and directed all 4 of them. And he co-wrote the 5th one.
Yeah.
So like it's the same guy. So that's why a lot of times when continuity things happen, it's because it's a different guy. He's doing his own version. Yeah. Like, no, this is the same fucking guy. There's no reason why this shit should be like this. But
right. Yeah, I mean, the only really other major franchise that's really done that has been really Child's Play. Whereas Don Mancini that did all of them. You know what I mean? So he is the continuity police for his own shit.
He did this show too, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing was the reboot that he didn't do. But everything else, it's been one continuity, so it is what it is. But yeah, I think this movie is if this Phantasm was just a standalone movie, it'd been one of those obscure ones, kind of like The Hills Have Eyes, late 70s stuff that maybe people have seen once or twice or know about it. Everyone knows a tall man, but no one really knows what he is, who he is, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You have to get more into the franchise to really dig into not continuity filled lore.
Well, arguably the first 2 we get nothing.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at the end of the second movie, the only thing that we know is that the tall man moves from town to town, turning people into these dwarves to bring to his own planet / dimension. We don't know.
Well,
but that's
it's
it. We don't
you're
get any new information in the second one.
right. It's generally, you know, the most people describe it as dwarf zombies used as slaves for an alien.
Okay.
So, do you want to go first? Your highlights? Or you want me to go first?
Uh, I can. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so we'll do. I love that car.
Hmm.
It's a beautiful car. 1971 Cuda, Hemi Cuda,
Hell
as they
yeah.
say, but beautiful car.
Yes.
Um, yeah, if you want one these days, it'll cost you about 150 grand.
Yep.
If you want like a fully restored, very nice one, it's a super expensive. It's how any of those muscle cars go. If you have any kind of like movie or fantasy thing, whatever it is, attached to the car, that the value goes up, even though it's the same as other kinds of car. That doesn't matter.
Right.
Everybody wants the same car as movies, whatever. So this, I think, gets a part of that, a piece
Hmm.
of that. Anyway, I did like the whole Dune box, right? I mean, it's basically ripped straight from Dune. But
Yeah.
that's 79, so it predates the David Lynch movie,
Yeah.
which means the guy had to actually have read the book Dune.
Correct. It's
So
1979. I don't know if a lot,
right.
like
So
him and
that's
George Lucas did, and that's probably about it.
right. Yeah, that's I mean that's cool. So anyway, it was like literally they didn't do fear is the mind killer, but they did fear is the killer was the line. And he repeated it several times and he put his hand in the pain box and they made pain and all that.
Sure, they
Like
made pain.
literally. Yeah.
Sure.
It was like whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like that's you know, that's just the way well, anyway,
Hmm.
whatever. It's a Dune reference. I liked it. So I mean the tall man is good. I mean, is good as a villain, right?
Yes.
I think he's wearing like I mean he's a tall dude in general, but I think he's wearing like some elevated shoes to make him even taller.
Oh yeah.
Um, but he is good, and I do like they only really show him walking in like one shot, like
Hmm.
from the side, like when you see Reggie's ice cream truck.
Yeah.
And he's got these like weird like noodle arms, so like you could tell he's like he doesn't walk like a normal person. He's walking like he doesn't know how to work his body. I just thought that was he did well. He's a good physical actor for the role for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, the sphere obviously is a very iconic thing. Everybody knows the sphere if you've seen the movie, or even if you haven't seen the movie, if you've just seen the fucking poster,
Oh yeah.
the sphere is all over everything with the drill and the blades and the
Hmm.
whatever. So that's kind of thing. And I did like the sphere O vision. We only got it like one time.
Where it kind of goes like flashes of red. Yeah.
Right, yeah. It's like like flashes of red, almost like predator vision.
Yeah.
But I call it Sphero vision. But we only really get one shot of it. But I thought it was interesting. It does come back in the third movie, but not in the second.
Correct.
But anyway, that was those are my high points. What do you
Um, Obviously, as a fan of Supernatural, the classic car, and you really we get into the rest, especially 2 and 3. It's an inspiration for Supernatural because they go around, small town USA in a black muscle car hunting things. um, I do like the cold intro. Like you immediately just get into like this shape shifting tall man, which doesn't shapeshifting doesn't really come into play in anything else after this movie. Um, you get into it, so it's a good way to have a first kill for it. Um, Really nothing explained for the most part. It's just glimmers of lore. We really don't know much about him, who he is, what this other world is, and I think that goes into the idea of the unknown slashers. So I do like that. Um, I like the fact that it just has brute strength, like just one handed lifts a casket with a body in it. And you're right. His walking, the tall man is a character. Just his height is a character. His physicality is a character in itself. So I like that. And really kind of like the bad ending, right? You can almost say that ending, being pulled through the mirror was inspiration for the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street, where the mom gets pulled through, the door window.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so yeah, I think for this movie being, a lot of people know Phantasm, but like it's not a mainstream name in horror.
No, not at all.
But it has lots of inspirations from it. So it has that cult following without being like, it's Tall Man's probably not in anyone's top 10 villains. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think he necessarily deserves to be, but I mean, it is an interesting franchise.
Yeah. Um, that's what I got. I'll go ahead and roll into my low points. Dirt bike in the graveyard. um,
You don't like dirt bikes and gravy?
no. Uh,
It's not like they're going to complain about the noise.
that's true.
But
Clearly, the person who wrote or directed this pallbearer scene and the people that were pallbearers have never pallbeared before. You don't stand shoulder to shoulder, two hands shuffling to the side carrying a casket. You have one hand on it and you walk straight forward. I'm like, what is going on?
yeah, you are given very clear instructions when you're a ball bearer exactly what you're supposed to.
They're
do.
like tripping
It's a
over
very
each other.
formal thing,
It's like
yeah.
people trying to move a couch, but all sides shuffling. I'm like, what the hell? Like no one's pallbeared before. Come on. I don't feel the guitar scene was necessary.
Oh, come on.
The maybe psychic grandma. I she, I don't.
Well, I mean, I don't think she was because, well, who knows?
Yeah,
I mean, they did make the pain box thing happen. Maybe
and
she is a
there's
Bene Gesserit. We don't know.
but there's psychics in the other part of this franchise, so it's possible. Where people have visions and stuff like that, right? So who
Yep.
knows?
But then they giggled and laughed when he left.
Right. And the kid
Just
when
mixed signals.
when Michael put his hand in the pain box, do you feel pain? Ow, it hurts.
Well, he's just a shitty actor.
That's not how he delivered the line. He didn't show like he was in pain. For all you know, he could have had like a kitten licking his hand in there because that's the same reaction you would have gotten as being like this painful box.
Hey, kittens got scratchy tongues, man.
I know, but you know what I mean? It's not very the acting in that scene area was particularly bad.
Well, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta give the kudos to not using red blood for this movie, but the blood effects
Not
were
using. Well, yeah. Any of the bad guys don't have real blood.
yeah, it's not good. The I think they call it the ichor is what they describe it as. And I would not buy ice cream from Reggie. I wouldn't let my kids buy ice cream from Reggie.
Dude, it's 1979, man.
I know.
He was wearing an ice cream man outfit with like a leather vest over it. That's what they look like back then.
And the makeup effects for Dead Tommy, it's like they put like blue foundation on his face.
Yeah, and they squirted mustard on him.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like like, especially like even the opening scene when he's in the coffin, his face is blue. Like, wow, mortuaries have like makeup artists, but yeah, his face was blue.
Yep.
That's what I got. How about you?
Okay, so Lowe's, I don't quite get the whole tall man morphing into the lavender lady thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what the point of that is. Other than like you need to have a sexy woman in your movie, and that was the only way you could get it in there. I guess. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me because like the next two movies, nope. Nothing at all. Like his shape shifting abilities are now gone. Like never to be seen again. Well, from what I've read in the notes, it does come back in the fifth movie.
Of course it does.
But I was saying like why? I don't know why. I don't get it. I mean, I understand maybe they're just trying to be different or odd or weird. I don't know. I think it was just an excuse to get sexy lady like death in there.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the fake blood is the real like actual red blood looked like crap.
Hmm.
It was like watery Kool-Aid. I would say the mustard blood looked better, had much better consistency. But yeah, the regular like red blood was
Hmm.
very very bad. Now the dude with the eyeshadow was just creepy, man. I don't know where he came from or what the fuck was going on with that dude. But he like grabbed the kid or whatever, right? He gets murdered by the sphere, and then he falls over, and then we get like this extended scene of him pissing all over the floor.
Hmm.
What? Because I don't think that was supposed to be the mustard blood,
No.
right? Because it was not the same consistency or color as the rest of the mustard blood. It looked like he just pissed all over the floor. Like his final death was, vacating his bladder all over the floor. Like, why do we need to watch that?
Why not?
Yeah, apparently. The finger fly, not only was it terrible effects, but it was gross.
Well, I mean, for phobias of bugs, yes.
But yeah, I didn't like it. Oh, even though it was terrible looking, the idea of it was still scary. And then that ending was so convoluted. I was like, wait, what? You get that like 3 times, then it just stops. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, the whole him popping back up and grabbing him at the end, that's not weird. But the whole like Reggie clearly being fucking dead, and then now he's totally fine. And then Jody, who was fine, is now dead in a car crash that happened a while ago.
Yes.
Like it makes no sense. Now Reggie has no memory of what's going on. Now the thing that's weird here is that Reggie does the same thing in the beginning of the next movie.
Hmm.
Where not okay, he forgot at this point, right? And then
Yeah.
it starts the next one, and then he has to fight all the dwarves and shit are there, and then he forgets that.
Yep.
And it's never explained. It's never talk like no one ever goes like, Reggie, what the fuck? You forgot twice. Like, what happened to you? Did you get brainwashed? Nobody says anything. It's just like that's just the way it was. Like they tried to like retcon themselves or something. I don't get it. But they tried to retcon themselves within the same movie,
Yeah. Of course.
which is odd. Like, why would you purposely kill off Jody? Like, if you were gonna possibly make a sequel because he didn't die at the end of the movie, it's very odd to me. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. So, what are our olives this week?
I went with murderous dwarves because there are murderous dwarves in all of these.
There you go.
The first one they looked like just people with blue faces,
Yes.
and 2 and 3 they have very very like bad effects where they're wearing like animatronic masks. And all their hands look like they were, microwave chicken skin.
I mean, essentially trolls from the movie Troll underneath a
Right.
Jawa robe.
Right. Yeah, that's essentially what was happening. And then the third one we'll talk about that. But like the third one, they had him in the first scene, and then they were just nope,
Oh,
gone.
Yeah.
Whole rest of the movie, no, don't show back up at all.
Correct.
Even though they were a major part of the first two, nope, we're not going to be there. We're going with the spheres this time.
Hell yeah.
So that's murderous dwarves. So how many murderous dwarves out of 10 would you give Phantasm? Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go?
I'll go first.
Right.
This is a movie you have to see at least once. I mean, any horror person should watch this movie once. Do I think it deserves more credit for just being weird and wacky for 1979 horror? I think so. For that though, I will give it 7.5 murderous drawers out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, I mean I think it's good. It's I mean I rewatched it. I watched it fairly recently, decent. So we'll do 7. 7 murderous dwarves out of 10.
Sweet.
Okay. So Phantasm 2 came out in 1988.
Yes, but chronologically, it's only supposed to be 7 years in the movies.
Well, I mean, technically, it takes place immediately
Well, yeah.
after the movie. But 1988, it's interesting because the first one predates all the, slasher stuff that happened in the 80s, right?
Hmm.
And the second one is like after it.
Right. The slasher genre
So,
is already dead in the 80s, essentially.
right. Yeah. So it's like it's a very odd placement for both of these.
Yeah.
But I'll let you take it.
All right. So yeah, so it's supposed to be, let's say, 7-ish years later. There we introduced to Liz, who has psychic thoughts and dreams. That's pretty much her main goal of this. Um, and she kind of it's like, oh, the tall man's gonna get my grandfather. So the tall man's now spread out to multiple people knowing who he is. And we cut back to the ending of the uh first movie, and then we get the extended scene of it, and that, oh, now the dwarves are in the house and like, oh shit, we gotta blow this up. And they do. So now Mike, so traumatized from the events from the first movie, 7 years later, he's now a completely different person, only for
Right.
this movie. And he's essentially, like in an insane asylum just because like he hears all this stuff. But it's like, yeah, I'm better now, and all this stuff. So um he gets out, and Reggie, who's after getting stabbed in the guts, perfectly alive and well, 7 years later, he's like, oh man, you're digging up graves, you really shouldn't do that, they might put you back in. He's like, yeah, that never happened, the house blowing up, that didn't happen. So anyway, he's like, no, there's all these coffins are completely empty. He's like, what he says, like, this is like the 10th one I dug up and it's all empty. And kudos to Mike, because he dug those with extreme precision, every single one by himself. you know?
He's had a lot of practice.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, like, you know what? No, this is crazy. You're dreaming. And then poor off-screen family of Reggie's house, blows up because Mike's like, oh shit, I have, this premonition that your house is gonna blow up. And they drive with them like, and then the house blows up. No, poor Reggie's off-screen family that we never met. That we just said he has a
Right.
family.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Yeah. So now,
I was confused. I was like, wait a minute. The house just blew up.
yeah,
What is, because the house looks exactly the same. I think they used the same house explosion.
they did.
That's why I'm like, we just saw this. Like, are we rewatching the same thing?
Yeah,
Because he was acting like he didn't remember the dwarf fight at all.
right.
Like he was trying to tell Mike, oh, it's all in your head. Oh, it's all made up. Like, dude, you were a part of it. What are you talking about?
Oh no, my family said, oh, Mike, you're right. Let's go hunt the tall man.
Right. Like, wait, what? Now you remember?
Yeah. Yeah. It just took his off-screen family to blow up for him to remember.
Right.
So anyway, now we get, like the biggest part of the supernatural, inspiration of, going to make handmade weapons, doing the sawed-off shotgun with special handles and all this shit, right? Because, essentially they'll like do a hardware store, but somehow they even get like grenades. And I'm like, I don't know if hardware stores sell grenades. Pretty sure they don't. But this is Oregon, so maybe they do. I don't know. I haven't been to Oregon in a long time.
I don't. Yeah, maybe it was like a back room of an army surplus store or
Maybe,
something. I don't know.
but yeah, sawing off what wasn't it like a quad barrel shotgun?
No, it was, he tied together two double barrel shotguns.
Oh, okay. But he
So it
made
was, so
one,
it
yeah,
made one quad barrel shotgun.
right, with a handle in the middle of it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. But why you would go for two breech loading double barrel shotguns, I don't know.
and somehow one trigger.
Correct.
Yeah. But yeah, now Reggie, in his years of ice cream man stuff, guitar playing, and off-screen family, he learned to be able to do something like that.
Yeah. No, he's Mr. Fix It.
Yes. Um. So kind of, anyway, they are going across, Oregon essentially, and going, every cemetery we hit, population zero, all the graves are dug up. Like, holy shit, they're following the tall man. So anyway, I think Mike at this point in time like has a dream about, you know, uh, a woman, and they end up seeing her on the side of the road as a hitchhiker. And this is
Alchemy.
huh?
Alchemy.
Yeah, which is an interesting name.
Well,
Um,
my name's Alchemy. You can call me Kemi. Never fucking heard of anyone
right.
called
And this is
Kemi in my life.
this is where this is the start of Horn Dog Reggie, as I like to call him.
Okay, he's bald with a ponytail. We all knew it was coming.
Right. And his family that he completely forgot about, like a day ago.
Well, I don't think any of those were. It was not like he had wife and children. He was like grandma and Aunt Celeste and somebody else. It wasn't like any of his children or
You would
wife or anything.
think that until the picture comes into play in the third one.
Well,
'Cause-
I, again, there's no continuity in these
no.
films. Like, just don't pretend like there is because there's not.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so eventually they're like, they go into the empty town and like, oh man, I haven't been to this town, Perigore in like 10 years. My uncle owns this bed and breakfast. And, they see it's dilapidated. It's like, that's weird. My uncle's not here. Huh. Why would you think he's still there if you haven't spoken to him in 10 years?
Well, she said she hasn't been there in 10 years.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean that she hasn't talked to them.
that's true. Um,
Because this is 1988. They do have
yeah,
telephones. They don't have cell phones, but
that's
they do
true.
have regular phones.
Um, so anyway, that's going on there. Meanwhile, Liz is like, you know, grandfather dies, and uh we get I had to look up the priest because he looked very familiar to me. That the
Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
he was the old German guy that wouldn't kneel down to Loki in the Avengers. um
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got like he's one of those dudes that he's been in. Like the list of the movies he's been in is like 50 movies long. It's like he's been in a lot of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. So anyway, he has this, premonition. He's like, oh man, I essentially need to like, pull an omen and put this sacred knife into the grandpa to have him stop from being reanimated, mixed with like vampire lore. I think.
Yeah, I don't know where he got it from
I have
because it
no idea.
obviously didn't work.
No. So anyway, so Liz kind of dreams that she's in the mausoleum. She's, sticks a pin into the tall man's finger and he licks his water mustard. He's like, good. Water mustard blood. And like, grandma kind of wakes up and her husband's there with the knife in him and she just disappears like out of a second story window. But yet the pin's still there on the nightstand with the mustard on it. Um so anyway, that's kind of going on there. Reggie gets it on with Kemi. Liz now kind of like this is like
Now
two
that was a
stories.
scene that I bet you enjoyed quite a bit
Why is that?
because she was talking about how beautiful his bald head
That's
was.
true. It's true. Bald heads are beautiful, all right. So then we kind of get like now second story of Liz. She kind of goes into the funeral home. She meets a priest there and he gets killed by, the flying orb because someone has to.
Yep.
So anyway, she kind of gets out and like finds out her grandmother is like one of the dwarf zombies. um so anyway, she kind of goes out, uh and she gets taken in there and finds Mike and he's like, yeah, we have to take care of this. So anyway, tall man appears and just kind of drags her and she goes back to the mausoleum. Mike and Reggie are like, hey, we have to go get her now. Cool. And we just leave Cammy kind of there. So anyway, we get a whole scene of like this new mortician assistants as well, like going through the uh the cremations part of it, like even breaking up bones to make the dust. She's able to fake being knocked out or out still, and she's like, oh man, I'm slowly rolling down this roller. She dives off, he dives at her, and he just like immediately slides into it.
Yep.
And he dead. So anyway, so yeah, she's able to escape. Reggie and Mike kind of come to a rescue, and Reggie gets this. He's like, "Hey, man, acid. I'm going to put this in the embalming fluid. Therefore, he can't ever bring anyone back to life." Cool. We get then kind of the like, oh man, look, there's this giant circle with big giant places that looks like the sphere. Wonder if this is a key. Yes, yes, it is. We get epic chainsaw fight
Ugh.
between Reggie and uh, I had to look it up. They're essentially grave robbers that they use. Even though
Yeah,
Tall Man could do it himself quite easily, wearing hazmat mask essentially.
right. And this is where I was assuming, like, okay, was Weird Eyeshadow Man from the first one just one of these graver people?
Yeah,
Because he's never explained.
I would think so.
That's what I assumed. I assumed he was like, okay, he's one of his like graver helper people.
Yeah. Um. So we found out there's like 3 orbs now, 2 silver ones, and a gold one that's upgraded. It's super special. They're kind of going out there. The last mortician's assistant gets his impaled to his hand to the door. He cuts it off. And eventually gets like back into him. The gold sphere has, like, as you point out, like all the KitchenAid mixer upgrades, right?
Right.
That can scan, it can blow up rats, all that cool stuff. Even powerful enough to go through doors. And we get the clearly ripped off of Evil Dead 2 door closing down the hallway, people closing it, and next door closing it. Just because I'm obsessed with Evil Dead, I know stuff like that.
No, okay. Now this one I will give you. Okay, because this one is the guy obviously watched Evil Dead 2 and thought it was great
Yes.
and put a bunch of shit of his in this movie.
Yes.
Just like when he's dumping the bone dust in the bag, whose name is on the bag?
Isn't it Ash?
Nope.
I didn't recall.
Sam Raimi.
Of course yeah. Okay.
So again, at this point, I'm like, okay, this fucking guy watched Evil Dead. I bet you there's going to be at least like, 3 more fucking references going on because that's how these people do it.
Hmm.
They always have to, oh, I like this franchise. Let's link our franchise onto their franchise. And they have to bring up stupid shit. I think the whole chainsaw fight,
Yes.
I believe, was a direct link to that.
Yeah. Oh, as I said, especially the door scene too.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of linking to that. And that's why, again, that's why I think it sits in a really weird place.
Hmm.
A really weird place. Obviously, I'll go into this
Yeah.
in a little bit. But yeah, like it comes out in 1979. It like predates most of these goofy, shitty B movie slashers, right?
I'd
And then
say almost all slasher franchises.
right.
Halloween.
So it's got like this street cred of being like first,
Yeah.
right? Like a lot of movies copied off of Phantasm. It's got this, reputation for being great. And a lot of people copied off it, like, oh, this is, a fantastic movie. Now the second one comes out so far down the line that all these other crappy movies that imitated it have already come out and gone away
Mhm.
and been forgotten about. So now this one comes out and it just reuses all the shitty stuff from those slashers and somehow ties it to that franchise. I was so confused. Like, this is such a weird sequel.
I think if they didn't have Sam Raimi, because I didn't notice it on the bag, people might
I'm
not
very
know.
surprised you did not notice.
People
that.
might not know the other references in this movie. I mean, if they didn't do the Sam Raimi, it would have been better as references because you'd be like, okay, I can see that.
Okay,
It's not
well,
over
just
your
like
face.
what year did this movie come out?
88.
Okay, what year did RoboCop come out? 1987. I know you don't know that. 1987. What was Liz's grandpa's name?
What was it?
Alex Murphy.
God damn it.
Who was RoboCop's real name.
Yeah.
So like that's what I'm saying. This movie is like this weird place where it's like this guy has been watching movies for the last 10 years and he's just injecting every single like little cameo and gotcha in this movie. It's such a weird place to be considering where Phantasm 1 was and now where Phantasm 2 is.
Right.
It's like Phantasm 1 was like this wax ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brand new, fresh, and exciting. And he just rolled down this hill of B movie slashers and picked up all this crap. And now at the end, we're just, picking out all of the little slasher things and just making them references in the new movie. It's so weird.
Yeah, I get that.
It's a bizarre. I was very confused this whole time.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm surprised you didn't catch the Sam Raimi thing. I'm not lying. You can go back
I
and
will
look at
now.
the bag he's dumping the bones in. It does say Mr. Sam Raimi.
I will now. So anyway, so Gold Spear that now can, you know, just laser and blow up holes through doors.
Right.
Essentially, is there Reggie wins the chainsaw fight. Um, and pretty spry for a guy fighting with a chainsaw and climbing up shit really fast. Good for him. Uh, so anyway, so they're like, oh man, tall man gets, essentially you know, the ball essentially through his throat, right? Or gets caught, and then like
um.
the acid gets pumped into him, he starts to melt.
Well, the other Graver dude
Yeah.
got the big gold globe
Uh,
inside of his body,
yes. Yeah.
and it was like going all through him and stuff, and then it ended up like getting stuck inside his mouth.
Yeah.
So like they turned him around, and it was like it was trying to get out of its mouth, and it was stuck.
But the thing that can
So
go
like
through doors can't get out.
right,
Yeah.
right. I was like, oh, well, okay, and then it just walked away, and it never came back. So I'm like, well, I guess it got stuck on something. I don't know. Maybe it ran out of juice or something.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So anyway, so tall guy's melting. They're like, hey, you know what? Fire seems to work great. Let's burn it. The building. Cammy shows up, and while she's driving, oh no, she's a zombie too. I guess as she pulls like an orb-sized chunk of hair out of her head.
yeah,
And then, oh man, so let's throw, essentially crash, swerve wildly, and Reggie seemingly dies again at the end of this movie.
right.
And then like, oh, it's over, and then tall man, no, it's not, pulls him through the window just to end the same way as the first one. That's how
Yeah.
they end these. Um, I'll go, kind of first thoughts rewatches is I know I watched this franchise probably like early 2000s. So obviously it was before Ravager, but the other ones were already out. I don't remember much from this movie from
I'm
watching
not.
it.
I'm honestly not surprised. It's a very kind of bland
It
movie.
is. It is. And yeah, I mean, it's, like I said, over the top, slapping you in the face with other references. You saw stuff, I saw stuff. And so I mean, I guess he did his homework, but he didn't have to, name wise, it didn't work for this movie. Like with like
Right.
Night of the Creeps, it worked. You know what I mean?
Right. Neither Crips was fun.
Right. Uh, this is really starts to go downhill in the franchise. It only took to number 2. What are you haven't seen this, right?
Right.
So
Right.
what are your first thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I already ramble on about how and how weird place it's in because
Mhm.
it like made a name for itself as one of the trailblazers in the genre, right?
Yeah.
And then like this movie is just like a sad sequel. It seems like um yeah, like they're like he didn't know he was going to be making a movie. So he had like, like an all-night bender like the night before.
Right.
And he just watched a whole bunch of other movies. So he just like inserted all these other movie fucking references and jokes and shit into this script that he just threw together overnight, which is sad because like he should have had the 9 years to throw this thing together, right? Like you should have had a decent script in 9 years.
Right.
But really, yeah, this one is yeah, not good. It goes from that trailblazer to just like a pale imitation.
Right.
Even though in 2 movies,
Yep.
like it didn't take any time to get there. It's like bam, bam, done.
Yeah.
It's just odd, but yeah, that's it.
All right. You want me to go through my highlights first?
Sure.
Swiss Army orbs. It's just interesting that they essentially have different tools for it. And at this point in time, you don't think anything of it, right? Third one, destroys that, but at least it makes sense like why the gold one would be different. Different. I don't remember what they call them. I do like that. There's a little bit new lore that we see more of the transformation into it, and we get more henchmen of the tall man. Um, and what it seems to me, and tell me if this seems like this to you. From it almost looks like the beginning of this movie with the rehash was actually shot in 1979, and they just use unused footage for the beginning of this one because Reggie looks the same age in the beginning scene versus 7 years later.
Yeah, I would almost agree with you, but the fact that they purposely showed Mike from behind all the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what leads me to believe that they filmed it later. Because if it was Mike, they would have showed Mike's face.
But you know what I mean? They might not have just because it's a different actor, or maybe there's some contractual things at this point in time. Back to the Future 2 already came out, so maybe there's something against archival footage.
I mean, I don't doubt it, but I'm saying like, I don't think it was filmed at the same time. I mean, they did a good job making it look like
Well,
that,
I'm
but I
going to
think it
say
was
that
just
because 3 looks like did the same thing as well.
right.
So it looks like they just had an extended ending scene for at least 1 and 2 that were using ones after that. So because I think Reggie looks vastly different from the opening scene. That's a recap
I don't.
to
Maybe you have like some kind of like bald dar, where
it's
you can tell.
possible.
Oh, look, his hair has moved a half an inch. I can tell it's not the same. I didn't notice much of a difference at all. He got grayer a little bit, but
Well, he
like
lost
when
his
he wasn't
ponytail
gray, he
too.
looked the same. Yeah, well, he just didn't put it up in a ponytail, but he could have.
But I mean, like I said, if that's the case, it really does seem like it is that. And if so, I mean, I can see that happening. Just it was on the cutting room floor, and they just like, hey, we already have some of this footage. We're just gonna do a couple scenes different. And
Well, I mean, they did definitely do a clip show thing
yeah,
where they definitely showed scenes from the first movie, but the scenes that were in this movie that looked like they were from that movie, I don't think they were actually filmed at that time. 'Cause like I said, whenever they show Mike, they're showing him from behind,
right,
and it's very clearly not the same guy.
yeah,
And Reggie, again, he was already bald.
right.
Like once you're bald, you're not like as long as your hair is dyed the same color, you look the same age for like 20 years.
Yeah, I can verify that's true.
So yeah, so it's I don't think.
But I mean, it still looked good enough that it wasn't like Shawnee Smith and Saw X 20 years
Well,
after
yeah,
that.
right.
Those are my highlights. What about you?
Highlights. Let's see. I did like the weapon modification thing. There are things I did not like about it, but I did like the idea of that. It was fun. I liked the ghost towns they were going through.
Mhm.
Like you get to see like the different kind of abandoned kind of main streets of other small towns. They kind of all look like the Centralia, right?
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you know what
yep.
Centralia. Yeah.
Resident, Silent Hill.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. For those of you that don't know, that's the town, the real town that Silent Hill was based on,
Yep.
which is a ghost town in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, because it's toxic air.
Well, yeah, because there was a big mine fire
Yeah.
and it was toxic air, so they told everybody to get out, but it's still there.
Yep.
The town is still there. There's nobody cares. Anyway, the Cuda was awesome until it wasn't, and it blew up.
Yep.
That was sad, but the car was cool before then. And yeah, like I said, I like the RoboCop reference. I assumed you would catch the Sam Raimi reference, but yeah, those. I put a big heavy sigh in front of him because I think that's like I enjoyed it, but I think that started the downfall of this movie. Was like all these references and stuff put in there, and then yeah, like you said, I like the new kind of sphere designs that
Mhm.
they had with the different attachments and shit.
Yeah.
Like that. Okay, you want me to roll into my
Yeah.
low points here? Bear with me. There's a few. I'll try to make it quick now. Okay, so I don't like fucking movies that do that clip show bullshit, right?
Not
Like
as
it's like
bad
fucking
as Silent
Basket
Night, Deadly
Case.
Night 2
Well, no, not that bad,
or
and
Basket
not
Case.
quite as bad as Basket Case, which did it heavily. It used at least 15 minutes of previous film footage in every movie.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't that bad, but it was. enough to annoy me. Like, okay, don't just pad out your fucking time. Everybody, if you're watching Phantasm 2, you already know what fucking happened in Phantasm 1. You don't need to re-go over this shit.
Right.
Anyway, okay, now the internal monologue. They have the internal monologue a lot in this movie.
Mhm.
Very confusing. They never tell you who's talking. Sometimes it's Mike, sometimes it's Reggie, sometimes it's Liz, sometimes it's the tall man, all narrating, and sometimes narrating over people. Like when Mike was, using his narration voice, the fucking doctor was talking to him, and then he was narrating to himself in his own head over like the conversation that was already happening. It was very confusing. But yeah, everybody's like fucking narrating. You're like, okay, if you have one narrator, stick with it.
Right.
We don't need all these multiple narrations. It's confusing the shit out of everyone. Let's see, like the whole scene where they're like, no long guns. Okay, like that makes no sense.
Right.
Like I understand, yes, there's a need for you to have hand-to-hand weapons, like weapons that can be used in close range. Yes, I get that, but like completely eliminating long guns,
Mhm.
like what is the point of that? I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. You're limiting yourself for absolutely no reason. Because he picks up like a regular shotgun. He's like, no long guns. Like so stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, the confusing timelines. Fucking Reggie doesn't remember the house blowing up fucking twice.
Mhm.
It's very confusing. And the same footage being used. I was like, is this supposed to be the same house? Is this like it's happening again and he doesn't remember the first? Like I don't know. I was very lost. I'll say Jerry sucked. Jerry was the sister of Liz.
Yep.
It was like, oh yeah, that sucks. Grandpa died. I gotta go.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
Right? Yeah, I was like, what an ass. But I bring that up because Jerry was played by Stacey Travis, who plays the main character in Hardware. So
Mm.
I had to bring that up. Somehow the dwarf effects are worse in this movie. I don't understand it because
They had a
they
bigger
they look like
budget.
they definitely spent more time on them.
Yeah.
Right? But they somehow look worse than they did in the first movie. Like they don't look anything like people. And so when the lady's like, "Grandma," I'm like, that does not look like your grandma. That doesn't look like anything. It looks like a little burn victim. That does not look like any
No.
whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so somehow worse, even though they were definitely, spent more time on it for sure. The bald head rodeo with Kemi. I did not like that. I'm sure you enjoyed that very much. I did not like that. It was very unnecessary. Now, yeah, we already talked about this a lot, where there's like rip-offs and cliches about stuff, right? Another movie that I'll bring up that came out in 1987 was the first Predator.
Mhm.
Right now, the fucking gold sphere shoots out a little laser when it's aiming at something, and then it shoots at whatever the little laser's aiming at. I wonder where he got that from.
No
you
idea.
know, you know what I'm saying? It's like this movie is just full of all this like shit. Like, dude, why are you doing this? You have your own franchise,
Mhm.
man. You don't need to steal the shit from other people. But like the whole movie's like that. It's just like spare parts from all these other movies. Like he's like, oh, you guys, you like that?
Yeah.
Oh, you like me putting all my stuff, your stuff in my movie? I don't get it. I don't understand. Anyway, the sphere effects were very bad in this one. There's several shots where you can clearly see the wire that it's on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just like blatantly, like thick ass wire that it's like floating down on. Like, okay, you couldn't have tried. You couldn't have tried to cut that out somehow. Um, yeah. So the big old shotgun that he's got, like every scene that he's got the shotgun, he goes to aim it, it gets knocked out of his hand. It happens at least 5 times.
Does he even
I
fire it?
stopped counting. He does fire it one time.
Okay.
I was like, if he doesn't fire this fucking thing by the end of this movie, I'm gonna freak out. But no, he does. And this is the funny part, right? Because he's got the bandolier with all those shotgun
Mhm.
shells and then drill bits for some reason. But
Mhm.
okay. But he's got all these shotgun shells. And again, every fight he gets into, he aims the shotgun and it gets knocked out of his hand, and then he has to fight hand to hand. Then he picks the shotgun back up at the end. And it goes through all of that. And right after the chainsaw fight, there's multiple continuity errors that happen here, but we'll talk about one. With the chainsaw guy cuts his bandolier off of him with the chainsaw,
Yes.
so he no longer has it.
Yes.
So he has his 4-barreled shotgun, and right after the chainsaw fight, 4 little dwarves come running up the stairs, and he fires the shotgun once and kills 4 dwarves,
Mhm.
one with each barrel,
Mhm.
and then goes, "Huh, and then throws the shotgun to the side.
Yes.
Now, okay, like you very clearly just had a bandolier. You could just go reload it. Why would you throw it away? That doesn't
Single
make any
use
sense.
weapons. Come on.
God, it bothered the shit out of me. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And then he goes in the other room and then grabs the flamethrower that Mike had.
That he made.
Right. Just again, and I just have a big continuity with a question mark for this because there's so many scenes that are just what is that there's a scene where we zoom in on a door because somebody's knocking on the door and you can very clearly see the chain is already on the door.
Mm-hmm.
We cut to the old lady that was sitting at the table. She gets up, walks to the door, and then puts the chain on the door. Like we clearly just saw that the chain was on the door. When Reggie was in the house before it exploded, he took a shotgun off of the gun rack, went into the other room. The camera turns towards the gun rack again. The gun is back on the gun rack and in his hands.
Yeah.
So they had two shotguns, and somebody was like, "Oh, I should put this back." Why? Why would you just have one? There's so many things. Again, and then the bandolier that gets cut off him with the chainsaw, the shotgun that flies out of his hands somehow comes back
Mhm.
in the third movie, which was they were inside of a huge flaming fireball at the end of this. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, I'll stop.
Oh,
Go ahead.
don't worry. The third one, my list is quite long. For me, off-screen family dying. I have a family. You do? They're dead now. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
I need a reason to do this.
All right. Okay, we discussed it before. We'll say it here too. Where you think there would be blood, there's no blood. Like you think chainsaw fight we discussed this maybe as an effect that was not right because Reggie flinches while he's like doing the chainsaw up the guy's groin, and there's like no blood on him. I'm sorry. If you have a chainsaw and you're probably going through someone, you're probably gonna have some blood splatter on you. Just saying.
Yeah, no. Again, we were talking about this a little earlier. I think because he was kind of flinching his eyes. I think that the effect was supposed to spray blood on him, and I think it malfunctioned somehow. And I think they just said, "Fuck it, go."
Yeah.
just fuck it, cut it, we're done.
Yeah.
Like I want to say it probably happened where it malfunctioned multiple times, and they're just like, "Ah, fuck it, and we'll just go with it."
Mm-hmm. Because he
But yeah, I think there was supposed to be blood, and it failed.
right. I would say inconsistent chainsaws. Sometimes the chainsaw goes right through the door. Other time, the nails just fall out of a board as it hits it.
Well, yeah.
He's like,
The chainsaws in film in general are not used correctly.
no. I bet you if two chains were spinning at each other, they would get locked up and not spark.
Or one of them would just fucking snap.
Right. But no. The guy, the magician assistant that just like, oh man, I'm at the end of this roller thing. How do I stop myself from going in the fire? I guess I don't. I can't use my arms. Can't try to grab the side, roll off to the side. He just kind of fell on the rollers and just like zipped down there while she was like slowly going.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he was like a zombie.
Maybe.
So,
He felt pain.
he doesn't
so
quite have his living reflexes.
I don't know. This Mike was able to dive through the car window sideways and just it clearly missed the seat that's there. That was a strange shot. You know what I'm talking about? He dives through the car window.
Is that the one where he gets up and he's clearly like 300 yards
Yeah.
from the car? Yeah.
Yeah. And this movie also starts the trend of you can go through glass and get zero scrapes on you.
Yeah, like he got ejected from like a flipping over a car.
Yes.
And he woke up and was like, like a football field away.
And not a scratch on him.
And he was totally fine, got up and ran right back to the car.
Yes.
And Reggie was also fine. He was just stuck in the seatbelt.
Yes. I can go on and on, but let's get into
the okay, so Phantasm 2. Okay, I'll go first on this one. The obviously not as good as Phantasm 1.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cliche bullshit in here that I just did not like.
Mhm.
I'm sure some people love it. I fucking hate when movies do that shit. Again, it was clearly a studio involved, like trying to make this better than it was. Too many fucking cliche bullshit from all these other movies that came out around that same time. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 4.5.
Whoa.
4.5 murder storms out of
Yeah, I don't need to see this one again. This is why I don't rewatch the Phantasm franchise. It's hard for me to just stop at one when I rewatch
10.
something. That's why it takes so long for me to see these between viewings. I will go down. Like I said, there are some good things, definitely a lot of bad. I know we have still further to go down, so I will go 5.5 Murder's drawers out of 10.
All right. So now we've gotten to Phantasm 3 Lord of the Dead.
Not illusions, but that.
Yeah. That came out
Indeed.
6 years later in 1994.
And at this point in time, all slashers are dead.
Yeah. Like this is, yeah, everything is gone. um, yeah. And then obviously the second one did not do well. I don't even know how they got to the third one, honestly. But they did.
Yes.
and recovered it. Now, of course, this one starts off right where the second one left off.
Yes.
The second one left off with
Liz and Mike getting pulled through the window and
right.
Reggie dead again.
Right. So Reggie, I don't think, do they ever explain how he comes back, or he's just fine?
He's just fine.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's just fine.
Liz is not.
Nothing happens.
Liz is not.
Right.
Okay.
No, Liz is brutally murdered.
Yeah. Decapitated.
Liz is brutally murdered by dwarves. Like I think they like chewed her to death and then cut off her head and then presented it to the tall man as some kind of prize, which was
and the prize was they don't need to be in the movie until the end.
Right. Yeah, and the prize was this is the last scene that they're going to be in.
Right.
So he the tall man kidnaps Mike and takes him away. And then Reggie he gets his shotgun back and his bandolier back, which again in the second movie were clearly thrown away before the fire happened.
Yes.
But he somehow has them back.
Yes.
And so anyway, he fights the dwarves and like shoots up in the air and manages to hit 4 dwarves with all 4 of his sawed-off shotgun
in a tree.
shots.
He fires into a tree and they fall at 4 separate areas.
Right. Yeah. So he does that whole thing, right? So then he decides, oh, I have to go get Mike back. We have to figure out what's going on. Now at this point, Jody comes back, right? Now, Jody is the brother from the first one who was completely absent from the second movie. And the last thing we got was the, he died in a car accident at the end of the first movie, which was bizarre to me.
Yeah.
Why they preemptively was like, oh, he's dead, but they brought Reggie back. Anyway, so now he's back kind of as a ghost version of him. Like he kind of like appears, disappears, gives you like little advice and then disappears kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of leading Reggie where to go, to like the next town that he should go to, whatever. So he goes to the town. It's another ghost town, and he meets up with. I hope I'm not missing anything. I don't think I missed anything in between. Where he meets up with the 3 drifter people. Is that this point, or did something else happen?
No, it's this.
Okay, so he finds this like. I don't know. I'm going to call her white trash lady, like digging through a car in this ghost town. And he's all like, "Hey, what you doing?" And she's like, "Oh, look what I found! It's a gun." It just starts.
Horndog Reggie is still a thing.
Well, right, yeah. So she's like, "Look what I found!" She just like starts firing this gun all over the place. So he's like, "Okay, yeah, just let me have that. Please stop that." And then
she does.
2 of these other guys,
she does give it to him too.
Right. Yeah, she's just like, "Here you go." And then like these 2 guys come out One guy named Henry, who's like, you've seen the dude in a lot of other movies. He's a very like creepy, shady dude. He was in like a lot of
Yeah.
westerns back in the day. But he's always like a creepy, shady kind of guy. But he's like, again, playing a creepy, shady kind of guy in like this weird suit. And then it's like his clearly like white trash muscle, who's like, the real boyfriend of white
Let's
trash,
call him small town ex quarterback.
Okay. Oh, that's too long. I'm just gonna call him white trash dude.
Meathead.
How about that? Yeah, that's fine. So they knock Reggie out and they put him in the back of his own Barracuda that somehow came back to life.
Hmm.
and and he said, but this now it's a convertible. So some of the CUDA came
It
back
got
to life.
reincarnated. All right.
Yeah, it got reincarnated as a convertible version of itself. So they throw him in his own trunk of his car and then drive to. They say they have to bring him to the edge of the town to kill him. I don't know
In
why.
the
I don't
unpopulated
understand.
town. Yes.
Right. So they pull to the edge of town and pull into this driveway of this like random house. I figured like, okay, this is like their murder house, right? No, they don't know this house. They have no idea. They go into the house and we get this like fucking Home Alone bullshit
Yes.
of like.
This would lead credence to Kevin McAllister is Jigsaw.
Right. Yeah, it's like, okay, if Home Alone was made with like, punji sticks and razor blades and shit, like stuff that would actually kill people. That's what this is. There's this kid that like booby trapped this house. And these guys all basically get killed by all his booby traps. Like the white trash lady gets like a tomahawk to the face. The creepy Henry dude gets stuck in like a shaft where he gets like stakes in his feet or something. I forgot what happened, but he
He
died.
dies. He goes
The
into a
big dude,
pit.
yeah, he goes into a pit and dies. And there, the other dude dies from a frisbee that has razor blades on it
Yes.
that somehow boomerangs around his
We'll get to
head.
that
And
frisbee. Don't worry.
yeah, and boomerangs around his head and slices his throat open. And then he dies. So then the kid discovers Reggie in the trunk. He comes out. They become best pals. And they decide that they're gonna whatever fight the tall man because the kids, his parents were taken by the tall man, and he was able to fight off the dwarves or whatever. So when the tall man moved on from this town, he survived.
Mhm.
The three other people were just scavengers picking on the bones of the town. Like the tall man had already moved on.
Yeah.
So they bury the bodies, and then they go. I forget what they. I think they go to that lady's house.
That has all the orphans from the town.
Yeah, she has all the orphans, and he tries to leave the kid there, and the kid, that fails. He does. The kid doesn't stay there. They go back to the house, and they see that the bodies have been dug up and are gone. We don't see them till later, but we are told that hey, they might be showing up later. So, then they go into the mausoleum of I think it's they get to the next town, and they go to the mausoleum, and they have a fight with two black ladies that are there for unknown reasons. I don't think they ever explain why they're there. Um,
Cuz
yeah, they're just there. And then they have a sphere fight, right? The sphere kills one of the ladies. The other lady is like, I don't know, she's got nunchucks.
because
And she's
90s.
like, yeah, the 90s, she's got nunchucks and she's super tough. So they end up escaping. So it's Reggie. Her name is Roxy. It's Reggie, Roxy, and a kid. I don't remember the kid's name.
The kid is Timothy.
Timoth, whatever. I'm just gonna call him the kid. So they all like escape from there, but they realize that the tall man is not there. They've moved on from this town too. There's a couple of scenes where we kind of see the tall man like, talking to Mike. I think um Reggie is seeing this like in his dreams because he's talking to at this point we realize that Jody is somehow living in one of the spheres. But it's like too weak to like do anything by itself, but it can still like psychically communicate with people. So that is Jody in this sphere is the thing that's telling them to where to go in the next towns and which direction to go and how they're finding these towns. But also it like lets him dream about the tall man and Mike at night.
Yeah.
And when he's in these dreams, Jody is there like as a real person.
Even though he's inside an orb.
Right. Yeah. So he's not really there. He's an orb, but he's like I guess like lucid dreaming him to that
Yeah.
place, whatever. But they are kind of I guess there. I don't know. It's fucking bizarre. Anyway, so there's a weird scene where like Reggie is trying to bone Roxy and makes the kids sleep out in the car while they get a hotel room. And then she like handcuffs him to the bed and then gets him to leave her alone. I would say that's like sexual assault.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude can't take a hit, but whatever. I mean, maybe that's their thing. I don't know. So anyway, so they ended up, and then after that, they end up camping out in the woods. And then when they're camping out in the woods, that's when they have this dream, this lucid dream of they see Mike trapped in the mausoleum, the current mausoleum where the tall man is.
Yeah.
And whatever the next town is. And then they basically somehow go to this place in the dream, which is real. They break Mike out of the mausoleum that he's stuck in. They kind of have a little altercation with the tall man where they come through the portal. They come back and they somehow cut off the tall man's hands because they turn off the portal when his hands are sticking through it. They have a goofy fight with his hands, which turn into little monsters.
Yeah.
One gets shotgunned, one gets stabbed. Goofy hijinks ensue. And then so now they have Mike with them. And so they're talking about, like Mike is, communicating with Jody, but also kind of like weirded out because the tall man didn't try to kill him or anything and kept trying to like I tell him that he, it was like you have powers that you don't know about or you forgot about or whatever. He's like insinuating that they're somehow connected in some way.
Yeah. Because he,
And
puts
he
an
doesn't,
orb on his forehead while sitting on
right,
slab.
right. Yeah. So he doesn't know why the tall man is doing that, whatever. But now he's with Reggie and the Roxy and the kid,
Yeah.
right? So they get the clues from Jody as to where this final kind of mausoleum is, like where the tall man actually is.
Right.
So they get in there. I want to say, yeah, it's before they go in there where Mike has communes with Jody in the sphere, and he gets like this kind of background information about how the tall man
Shrinks people.
yes, shrinks people into the dwarves and then shrinks their brain even more and then takes their brains out and puts them in the spheres. So the spheres are actually like people's brains.
And also us, eyeballs that can come out of him too now.
Right, yeah. And in this one, there's a lot more going on with the spheres than there
Yeah.
was before. There's all kinds of new powers and goofy stuff. And we actually see like the brains in them and the eyeballs and the whatever. And so we were basically told that the spheres are like the thinking hunter killers, and then the murderous dwarves, which technically don't have a brain, they're just drones, are just violent. That's it. They're just slaves, and they're just violent slaves.
Yeah.
That's it. So it's like there's two different parts of it, but they're both connected in some way. One's the brain, one's the body. But the tall man like actually like knows that he's there because apparently I thought it was just they're just telling us background. No, they were actually there.
Yeah.
Somehow. And anyway, the tall man kind of sees him, and then because he sees him, now he knows where they are, and then he immediately teleports to their location. And then him and Mike, I think, yeah, he takes Mike, I believe, right? Because he shows up right next to him. And anyway, so then I know that the redneck 3, the white trash 3 come back as zombies, and there's like a long convoluted fight that is like in one location, and then it's in the car to another location, and then it's in the other location where there's nunchucks and spheres and all kinds of stupid fights happening. Yes, so all of it's a very long, drawn out, dumbass fight, but it eventually ends exactly where you think it does, where the 3 rednecks are dead
Again.
Again, yes, the second time. They do look like zombies, so that they don't look like they were just fine.
Right.
But yeah, they come back. Again, it seems like the dwarves are just done with it.
Hmm.
Like we see them in the first scene, and then we see one when he's taking the brain out of it, but he's not using them as henchmen anymore. He's got like full zombie
Well,
people.
maybe they're all slaves now and wherever he's from.
Yeah, I don't I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand what happens. So anyway, so they are in this final thing and they realize, oh yeah, remember back in the first movie when he was walking past Reggie's truck and he looked at me? Oh, that must mean he doesn't like coal.
Yes, that we'll get to that story
Uh
point later. Don't worry.
sure. Okay. I don't know how that works, but they're like, oh, he doesn't like cold. That's his weakness. So they, like put a harpoon in liquid nitrogen and then harpoon him into a freezer,
Yep.
which then freezes him. And then a sphere comes out of his head. So his body was just like a shell, and he's really this brain in a sphere, right?
Sure.
But he's like a super sphere. So like when blades come out of his head, it's 3 instead of 2 because he's the super sphere. So they're fighting this stupid fucking sphere. Reggie manages to get it stuck on a plunger and then sticks it in the liquid nitrogen, and then it basically stops moving and gets frozen.
Yeah.
Um, and then that's it. You'd think that's it, and then it goes into the traditional Phantasm. What the fuck is happening? Ending
Reggie's
where
probably dead again.
yeah, Reggie's probably fucking dead again. Roxy just leaves.
Hmm.
She hugs everybody and then just fucking leaves. And then Mike is apparently a sphere in a body. Not quite sure how that happened, but Mike is now like he's still he seems to have his own like mind, right?
But he has like
Uh,
but he has like that sphere hole in his head, just like Kemi did in the
right,
second one.
right. So he's a sphere, but he's like he doesn't know what to do, so he kind of like disappears. Then Reggie fucking dies again, and then the tall man is like,
They think it's over. Run. It's never over.
yeah, and then that's it.
Yes,
And that's yeah. I don't remember exactly what happened at the end, but I think
that's
I
it.
got
Yeah,
the gist of
that's good enough. Uh, you want me to go?
it. Okay, so obviously this is the first time I watched
Mhm.
it. I mean, I think it's better than the second one.
Really?
That's not saying much. I thought this one was better. It had less of the stupid fucking like cliche shit from other fucking movies and TV shows. Yeah, the shit was bad. Yeah, the shit was cheesy, but at least it was its own shit.
That's true.
So I'll give it more points for that. Again, was it good? No, it's cheesy as shit. I'm not going to say that it was good in any way. It's still the same type of shit as the second one. Again, it didn't rely so heavily on other franchises and like little, you know, oh look at this, it's from another movie I watched last year. It wasn't any of
Well,
that.
because the
It
other
was like
franchises
again,
were gone by this point.
right? Yes. But again, yeah, it was. I mean, continuity is completely destroyed in this movie. But again, I thought it was better than the second one. I thought this one was cheesy and fun, but I thought it was better done with a little bit more heart than the second one was. What about you?
Once again, I don't remember much from this movie. um,
Yeah, okay, I'm not surprised.
yeah, I mean, this really continues the I feel downward trend that this franchise took. It is uh very 90s without a doubt. But yeah,
Like this, so you talking about the style or just in
it
general?
like you know how sometimes like when you get in these franchises, all of a sudden you hit the 90s, you know it's the 90s.
Well, yeah, it's because the
Yeah,
hair, the hair and the clothes. Yeah,
and nunchucks. All right, I'm gonna throw.
fucking nunchucks,
I'm
dude. Nunchucks are still cool. They've always been
I'm gonna throw that to the trend of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
yeah, you might be right.
so we'll get into the nunchucks later. I promise you. All right. Do you want me to do my highlights first?
Um, let's see. No, well, I can do
Okay.
mine first. If you want to do your whole thing
Yeah,
together.
that's fine.
Okay. So, um, highs. I mean, Mike is back. The original Mike is
Mhm.
back, right? That's cool. The original Jody is back.
Yep.
That's cool, I
Reggie's
guess.
still there.
Reggie never left. um, we do get more lore in this movie, right? I mean, not much. We don't get more depth, but at least we get more what's going on,
Yeah.
right? What's happening with the spheres? We got little brains inside of them, you know. What's happening with the dwarves? We just get a little bit more information. It's not much, but it's something. The tall man does get a lot more dialogue in this movie. That's not really saying much because I think the other movies he only has like 2 lines. This one I think he has like 6 or 7.
Right.
We get to see a little bit more of his motivations and some more. I'm not gonna even say character arc because that's too strong. But we get something. We get something from him besides just being an antagonist. Um, I thought that the pink hearse road fight with those 3 zombie people I thought was pretty well done. It was funny. It made me laugh several times just how dumb it
Yeah.
was. But it was cheesy, dumb fun. It was intentionally done that way. I thought it was fun. And the ending, as crappy as it was, I thought was better than the second.
Right.
But that's about it. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah. I think it was. Like I said, I still felt like this was the beginning of this was shot at the same time because I felt like it was still the same person that Liz was the same person at least.
Are you the kind of person that can't tell the difference between Clark Kent and Superman because of the
Yes.
glasses?
But it's interesting that they just brutally murder Liz.
I was like, whoa. I mean, you could have said she was dead. No, it was like they must have been angry. Like she must have been like, fuck you, I'm not coming back. And they're like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, well, you're gonna die then.
Yeah.
Brutally. Okay.
Right. The brains in the Sentinels. They're called Sentinels. The brains in the Sentinels was just interesting lore to do. It's weird that it's interesting that they separate out the body from the mind to create the two different things for it. We do get more gravers. We never get any explanation of the gravers though.
No, yeah, I don't know where they're coming from. But I guess at this point it makes more sense that they would be like the full grown zombie people. Right? Even though that doesn't really make sense.
No.
As to why in the first movie, like Eyeshadow Man would be there when he's got plenty of dwarves. In the second movie, there's plenty of dwarves. I don't know why they would need gravers.
Right.
I don't know. There's like an in between that they need like people that are shaped like people to do like jobs that the tall man doesn't want to do himself. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know their hierarchy, but there's some weird shit going on.
Despite continuity errors galore, at least they're consistent with the opening and ending of these movies. It's always the same thing, right? Reggie's probably dead, but we'll find out. I haven't watched 4 in a very long time. He's obviously going to be okay. And everything like that.
Well, I know that he's in 4 and 5.
And so's Mike. So yeah.
so's Jody.
Yeah.
But so that doesn't really tell you. Maybe they were all ghosts.
Maybe. Kind of the bad ending again. That's what they like to do. And the last part, this will be a high that's also the low. Turned up the 90s is what I have written down here.
Turned up the
90s. Yes, like I said. I'll go into that. The nunchucks. I know special forces. And I learned nunchucks. I don't think that's a weapon.
They don't treat your nunchucks as special forces. They got a lot better weapons than fucking nunchucks.
Right. I'm just going, no. I don't believe it.
Like, here's a gun, here's a knife. These work well. What are you fucking nunchucks?
Yeah. Damn Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Horny Reg is turned up a lot in this one.
Okay, like I said, what he did to Roxy in the bed, that's sexual assault.
Yes.
I mean, like, yeah, she was strong enough to just like handcuff him to the bed, but like he would not take no for an answer. Like that's fucked up.
Yeah, even to the point of like lines so you have the queen side.
And again, but here's the thing, right? She was okay with a kid sleeping in the car. You know what I mean? I'm not I'm not saying that that was consent in any way. I'm just saying, like, I think she was okay with a little something going on. Maybe not as far as Reg wanted to go, but I think she was okay with something.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, letting a poor kid sleep in a fucking car while you guys are in a nice, cushy hotel room,
yeah,
that's
it
shitty.
is.
I don't care who you are. Like, unless you're like planning on getting it on, there's no fucking way you would let a kid stay in a car,
That's true.
especially in that danger that they were in.
Right. Um,
So,
I have, I put the quote crew, Moose, and whoever the people are, were annoying as fuck.
Moose.
All right. Um, I like, they go, uh, hey, cryogenics is the future, and how they do that? How do mortuaries and mausoleums do the new future cryogenics? Just heads in a
Yeah,
cryo.
you have a vat, like a big bubbling cauldron of liquid nitrogen. You just pop heads in there and let them flop
Yeah,
around.
I go,
That's how you do
no,
it.
that's not how it works. Once again, even like Tim jumps out a hearse window, which is going to be reinforced because of coffins that are inside of it. No scratches, zero scratches.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
just fine. The multiple dwarf creatures that fall from different spots of the tree from one shotgun blast into the tree. Like the bullets now, Reggie has like magic bullets ready to just like hone in on his targets. um,
Well, to be fair, the shotgun in this movie did have longer barrels than it did in
Barely longer
the
barrels.
second movie.
um, then we'll get into Tim. First and foremost, Tim. Um, Psychopathic Kevin McAllister that turned his house into circus with the stupid ass, goofy fucking circus music playing while Moose and the crew were going through the house.
Peace.
That's the best name I have for him. um, uh, and let's get into this frisbee that he tosses vertically.
Right. He sure does.
He tosses
And then it not
vertically
only
and then it goes up, spins around, and hones in on Moose's neck.
right. Like it for sure boomerangs around. Like there is no he did not throw it directly at him
No.
or around. No. It somehow went flying up in the air, turned itself, righted itself, came back around, and then slit his throat and then went back the other
Now, in
way.
fairness to Moose, I wouldn't expect a frisbee to do that either. It's like he
Yeah,
do
no
it
shit. I was like, the fuck is happening?
right. Okay, so we have to talk the trunk of the car. It's a magical trunk of the car because Reggie was stuck in the trunk and was unable to get out to the point where Tim had to go get the keys and open the trunk. Right after he's dropped off at the orphanage, the keys are still in the ignition. Tim is in the trunk and is able to open it from the inside to show the orphan lady that
Yeah,
he's in there.
he's using his bullshit Home Alone
Yeah,
powers.
I'm like, how many minutes are between that scene? 15 at best.
Well, the other funny thing is, like, all the other times they show them putting things in the trunk and then closing the trunk never closes all the
Yeah,
time. So that's how the kid got out. How Reggie got locked in, I don't know. Maybe they finally pushed hard enough to lock him
I don't know. I doubt it, but
in.
yeah, and just like the orb turning good, sure. The magic 8-ball orb that can now tell you what direction to go. Okay. Eyeballs now come out of the orbs. What?
Only once, just for
Uh,
effect.
but still stupid. Like
Yes.
everything's in the orb, but it's also hollow enough that when it drills into people, it's able to shoot blood out the back of it.
Yeah.
Can't fit all that stuff. So it has to be aliens.
Well, I mean, maybe there's an alternate dimension inside the little brain.
Sure. Why not? Um, how many slaves does the tall man need? Like he's gone through what? Populations of they're small towns, but there's still like 500 people. How many does he need?
I don't know. We don't have enough
What's
information.
his end
We
goal?
don't know what the fuck he's doing. We don't even know where he's from.
Right.
We don't even know what his real name
Right.
is. We know nothing about him.
Right. Um
So we don't know. Maybe he is at war with another alien species that's even worse than he is,
maybe.
and they need soldiers for the. I mean, I don't know.
We saw in the second one, it doesn't matter if his first body is destroyed. He just a new one comes out of the portal.
Yep.
Now there's way too many
Well,
orbs.
and the third one, well, now we know why is because he's just an orb in the
Yeah,
body.
there's way too many orbs.
Well,
It's like
yeah, there's
we have thousands of
thousands.
orbs. Like, I think there's about 20.
Yeah, there's like maybe 35.
Yeah. And then I had one more point that I was going to make about it. That's it.
You can't read your own writing.
No,
I do
I
that
had thought of
sometimes. Don't
something
worry.
else while you were describing it. I didn't write it down. I should have. Um, I'm sure I'll remember it at some point in time. But that's what I got.
Are you upset that Kemi didn't come back?
Also, I'm pretty sure that the town that they used from the second one is the same town in the third one. I'm pretty sure they went past the same exact car and building,
Well, I want to know, like, why do the fucking mausoleums all look the same?
and they're pristine.
Like, why are they all like marble, like fake marble hallways? Every single one. They're different patterns and it's not the same pattern.
Yeah.
But they're all the same weirdly long. I've never seen those
Oh, I remember the third thing. So, did you read the sign of what that gas station had when Reggie asked for directions?
before. No.
It was ammo, Q-tips.
Nice.
I'm just like,
How was he gonna clean your ammo?
sure. Why not? That's what I got. I can go on forever. Why don't you go ahead with your low points?
Okay, so low points, the fucking clip show again. I hate when movies do that. Like, we're on the third one. If I haven't watched it by now, I'll catch up. It's fine. Um Again, just the continuity again. Just the shotgun and the bandolier coming back, the car coming back. No explanation, nothing going on, but it's just back. Everything's
Mhm.
fine. But yeah, now the car is a convertible, and they use the convertible top several times. It's not like they try to hide it in any way. It's just a convertible. Again, yeah, the Home Alone bullshit. I didn't like that stuff either.
Mysterious clowns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, what is he like fucking the Joker as a child? Like, what the fuck is this? What are we going for? Yeah, the dwarves, so they're only in the beginning and then they're just
Yep.
gone. Like they show him the one scene where he's taking the brain out, but then all of a sudden he's got full size zombies. I don't know if they were like they really wanted to embrace like the full body like redneck
I don't
zombie. I
know.
don't know why. That 1994 was their big. There wasn't a lot of zombies going on. I don't know why they went that direction. Maybe the dwarves were on strike or something. I don't know. And I get the effects in this one. They're cheesy, but they're fun. Um, I would say more cheesy than fun. Obviously, they're my low side, but there is some fun stuff happening. It's not all bad, but it is very, very cheesy. Not as bad as the second one, I will say. But that's it for me. So, Phantasm 3, Lord of the Dead, Murderous Dwarves out of 10, Graveyard.
I did not like this more than the second one. So it's going down for me. I'm going down to 4.75 for this one.
All right. Again, I like this one better. Again, it's yeah, it's cheesy, it's dumb, but again, it's its own kind of dumb. I mean, yeah, the fucking Home Alone bullshit was stupid, but like, at least it was its own. Like, they didn't steal it from anything else. I mean, I guess other than Home Alone, kind of, sort of.
Right.
There was no murders in Home Alone. But I think it made its own mistakes. Yeah, there was a lot of mistakes. It's not a good movie, I wouldn't say, but it at least it's its own thing, and I'll respect it for that. So I did like it better than the second one. So I will give it 5.4. 5.4 murderous dwarves out of 10.
All right.
Anything more you want to add?
No, I'm good with
All right. Are there more of these Phantasm movies to enjoy, you may ask? Fear not, brave listener, for there are 2 more for us to recap and review next week. We can only hope that the continuity guy is back from vacation before they filmed Phantasm for Oblivion and then drop the numbering system entirely for the 5th film, Phantasm Ravager. And remember, we watch bad movies so you don't have to.
And this is in Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.
Good night.